Opening Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster packs sure is a lot of fun, but have you looked at how much you pay for them? I mean, it's just shiny cardboard. The concept of paper having that much value is crazy. So, in order to save money, I decided to go for the way easier option: recreating and opening the booster packs in Blender. There's a huge variety of rarities in Yu-Gi-Oh! For my render I wanted to include gold rares, because I think they look pretty decent, which is why I chose to recreate the maximum gold Eldorado booster packs. So I browsed the web for a scan of the booster pack packaging, which I could use as a texture later on. I couldn't find one for the back of the boosters, so I just downloaded the back of another booster pack and decided to edit it into the back of the maximum gold pack. Then I went on YouTube to search for an unpacking video of this booster, so I could use the cards from a wheel pull. I ended up watching this guy's video and put all of the cards' names into a text file. Then I went on Card Cluster to download scans of all the cards. So now let's start with the Blender part. I imported the booster pack scan using the images as planes importer. I then used loop cuts to get more geometry and to find the shape of the model, by moving the vertices so it fits the image. After that, I've used the solidify and bevel modifier, created a backup and applied the modifiers. Creating the materials for the booster pack was pretty easy. I just used the texture and made the shader slightly metallic. For the back of the booster I opened up Affinity Photo to create more resources. I also have Photoshop installed, but in my opinion Affinity beats Photoshop, especially when it comes to small tasks. So I masked out the back of the booster and replaced it with my scan. Then I just cleaned out the areas by using the stencil tool. I also created a mask to separate the metallic part of the booster from this white info box. So in the shader I created both a metallic shader and a non-metallic shader. Then I got annoyed by the highlights that were in the texture. So I went back into Affinity and edited them out. For the top and bottom scripts, where you can open the boosters, I created another metallic shader and used a wave texture to create a bump map. Then I've used some math nodes on it to make the wave texture smoother and adjusted the color ramp. This improved the look of the bump map. I imported one of the cards using images as planes again and gave a slight extrusion to it. Following that, I gave the back of the card a material with the traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! Back print as its texture. I gave the card some roughness and added a very small amount of clear coat to get that printing finish look. After duplicating the card, I have switched it out with the texture of one of the gold rares. Before getting deeper into the shader, I created more masks in Affinity Photo, first for the border of the card and one for the text box frame. Because all gold rares have a custom outline and have individual name and level in gold, I had to create individual masks for our two gold rares. Back in Blender I created a golden metallic shader and used the border mask on it. The text box frame has this rainbow shine effect on it, so I created a rainbow gradient using the color ramp, and for the input of it I played around with the Fresnel and layer weight node. After a lot of experimenting, I manipulated the normals of the Fresnel and the layer weight by using a wave texture with rather high distortion. And then I combined it with the other shaders by using a mix shader with the second mask I've created. Then the only thing left was to add in the individual mask. I've just used it with the golden shader I created in the beginning. I think the result looks really good so far. I then decided the material could need a bit more detail, so I've added a noise texture and used it as a bump map. Then I've duplicated the cards and replaced the textures until I had all the cards in my workspace. Now let's start with the animation. Since I wanted the booster pack to open in the beginning, I separated the top strip from the rest of the model so I can animate it on its own. To deform the strip, I've added the lattice modifier to it. Then I just added in the lattice, set it up to have more subdivisions, and now I can move the points of the lattice to displace the opening strip. I then created shape keys for the lattice so it could blend between different states. Which is actually just the usual way to work with lattices. After that, I've used an empty as a parent to keyframe the position and rotation of the whole booster pack, to fly into the view in the beginning of the animation. Then, after the opening animation is played, the booster pack gets switched out with the first card. To add more motion to the cards, I've also animated the rotation of the card. As a transition between the cards, I've made the cards fly into the camera and put the next card into position while the screen is covered. I chose this kind of transition because in my opinion it looks modern and clean. I then created a particle system with a turbulence field, so I could add more impact when the gold rares were pulled. For the particle material I've played around with Fresnel a bit and ended up with something that looks like bokeh. Then I've set up some depth of field and motion blur to make the particles look better and when to render it. While the animation was rendering, I went on to create some music and sound effects for it. I orientated myself to the vibe of the music from Forbidden Memories for the PS1. So I wanted the music to sound kinda mysterious and magical. In my presets I've actually found a sound I found really fitting. For the melodic parts of the music I've used a pad to get some midtones and a bell for some higher pitched sounds. Added together with the drum and percussion elements, it sounds like this. For the sound effects I wanted to have one for drawing the cards and one for pulling a gold rare. So I used the 3x OSC to get some white noise and then used an automation that controls the cutoff, which creates this swoosh effect. Then I've added some reverbs and adjusted the equalizer to get a more unique sound. For the gold rare I've just used a plug with a rising melody that ends with playing a chord. Finally, let's put everything together in After Effects. For the background, I've added in fractal noise, distorted it and gave it a blue color. I was thinking of making it kinda look like MST to increase the connection to Yu-Gi-Oh! I used expressions to animate the background over time. Other than that, I just added some color corrections, a vignette and fade in. After having trouble with the transparency of the particles and messing around with cycling through color spaces in After Effects, I decided to just render those parts out again without any particles, so I can just add them inside After Effects to have more control over it. I've used Scrap Code particular for this and I think it got the job done. Additional to that, I keyframed the hue and the glow when the gold rares were pulled to get even more impact. Finally I added in the sound effects and rendered the animation. So now let us check out the result.